long ways toward enforcing the border, which are not being applied. That's point one. Point two, even if we did that, I would argue you still have to pass some other laws to make this work. What the Border Patrol tells us is, let's just take it for granted that we can secure the border. We have the assets and the resources we know we need to actually secure it. What the Border Patrol tells us is, you also have to find a way of separating the immigrant who wants to come over and just work, do a job, make money for his or her family, from the immigrant who's trying to come over and traffic a person or drugs or something like this. So this is why I think you need to have a guest worker program. A guest worker program where a person comes to take a job that isn't being taken, isn't being filled. Talk to a dairy farmer in Wisconsin, you'll get an earful about labor problems. The nursery industry, the California industry, vegetation, especially crops industry. So a guest worker program where a person comes in with a tamper-proof ID, they can go back and forth, they don't have to bring their family, they can go back and forth and do work. That takes pressure off the border, and it makes it easier for the Border Patrol to interdict those we really don't want to come in the country. That's point two. Point three is we have another big problem, and this also requires a law change. Identity theft is a huge issue. It's easy for a person to come to the country and use another person's social security number to work and get a job. And the system we use in America today, it's called the I-9 system, is to verify that you are who you say you are when you go and get a job, is a paper-based 20th century system that is easy to use someone else's ID. We've had this pilot project in place for like a decade called the E-Verify, where you can actually electronically verify, is this person applying for a job who they say they are, and is this social security number intact, meaning it's not being used or claimed by other people. So that you electronically verify, meaning you cannot get a job in this country by using someone else's social security ID. That's very important to turn that off, because it removes the incentive, which is very easy to get work without documentation, without legal documentation. So I think you have to pass those laws. And then I think you need to reform on the visa tracking system. 40% of undocumented immigrants are people who overstay their visas. So they come here legally, but on a temporary visa, a work visa, a tourist visa, a student visa, but we have no idea whether they left or not. So in this day and age, we ought to be able to tell whether or not the person left the country who was allowed to enter the country. That's called a visa tracking system. And we know how to do that too. We've got to pass a law to do that. I would change the way legal immigration works to make it easier for what I call job-based immigration. Less about who you're related to and who your relative is, but more what do you contribute to the economy. I think if you do those things, I think you go a long ways toward getting us laws that can be enforced, enforcing our laws, and dealing with sort of the source of the problems that make the undocumented so easy. The other thing, then the question is, what do you do about the undocumented population? Let's just say it's 11 million. No one knows the answer to how much that is. I don't think amnesty is the answer, because if you do amnesty, like we did in '86, then you're basically incentivizing more. It just creates a moral hazard, and we need to respect the rule of law if we're going to be a rule of law respecting country. So I think there's a way I think there's a way to get people right with the law that's not amnesty, but that is a probationary system and period, where just like if you break a law in America, a lot of times a judge will put you on probation. Do probationary visas that require fines, penalties, conditionality, English, civics, back taxes, can't be on public assistance, be gainfully employed. And what the proposal that I've been talking about and advancing, I wrote about this a lot, is then we have to set up a metrics on what it takes to secure the border. And we have to hold the government accountable to actually securing the border. And we have to have an independent verifier, not the executive branch, an independent entity verifying, did they do their job? Is it actually secure? Then and only if and when it is secure can a person convert a probationary visa after they've actually satisfied the conditions of their probation into a work permit. Not citizenship, a work permit to continue working in the country. That way, it's not amnesty. You're not rewarding people for cutting the line, but you're fixing a way for people to get right with the law, and you're taking pressure off the border in the right way, as the Border Patrol often tells us to do, And I think that that is a way to have a system, because the biggest problem I worry about is we'll pass some law, and then 6, 7 years we'll say we got this problem, we've got to fix it again. I mean, this is what we've been doing. We had immigration reform in '86, then we said that didn't work, so we did it again in 1996. And we've basically been debating this for 10 years. So we need to have immigration reforms that can stick, that can work, that apply to the 21st century, so that 10 years from now, we're not saying, oh, we're going to have to do immigration reform again. It's broken. Look at all the undocumented. Look at the border. Let's fix it once and for all. Let's fix it in a way where the rule of law is respected, people are rewarded for obeying our laws and waiting in line, and we actually can control who comes and goes in the country. In the day of ISIS and drugs and international terrorism, this is not just an economic security issue, it's also a national security issue. So right now, we do not have a president that is willing to work with us on this, I would argue. I think the executive order he did was a way of circumventing Congress. The courts, slapped his hand and prevented him from doing that. But this is something we're going to have to tackle in this country once and for all. I think, did I say